So all that leaves me to do now is to hand over to Candea, who's going to hopefully make us all feel better about giving away the farm.
Thank you, Audrey, and thank you to everybody who's been brave enough to be here at 9 o'clock, and especially for such a panel with a threatening name for all the farmers around here. So the idea for this panel, in fact, came from the growing urge that comes both from government, from the research community, and in fact even from the public, that the data, the results of the publicly funded research should be made freely available as soon as they're published, without restriction of use, which is a pressure which clearly will have and has already started to have a strong impact on publishing practices, and which in fact, of course, as was discussed even yesterday and the day before, calls for almost a rethinking of the traditional business models. Open access in its different formats and colors is therefore quite at the front of the internal agenda and interprofessional agenda of the publishing world, as is open data, but not necessarily with the same impact for the same actors. In this context, obviously the role of the publisher is called very strongly into question, as I was saying. But in fact, to the extent when the logic is pushed to an extreme, to the extent of being sometimes looked at as an obstacle for dissemination of information, of knowledge, rather than to be recognized in its normal role of mediator and catalyzer. Excuse me. Sorry. Thank you. Now, this specific pressure. Oh, that makes quite a difference. Sorry. This specific pressure now is felt much more acutely due to the political shift to open access. However, the claim for free online content has been increasingly present for a long time, I mean, at least 20 years. And it doesn't only concern publicly funded research. Indeed, if you consider the global online world, as we've been talking about it for years, getting free access to knowledge has been more and more increasingly considered a legitimate right for the user. Publishers have therefore already had to think about the evolution of the business models for quite some time, namely looking at different elements that constitute the value of the selling proposition, which is the part of the content, which is the part of the content and information proper, and which is the part of the services around the content. And is there scope for making content free on the one hand, while selling it in a content plus value added bundle at the same time? Now, this is of course obviously a rhetorical question. As Charlie Rappel was reminding us yesterday, it's already the case. We are no longer in the content business. We are almost all of us in the services business. But the situation obviously is far from stable. Major questions still have to be answered, and they're really fundamental ones. Is open free? What's the cost? Who pays for it? Does open access apply in the same way in the journal world, in the book world? What should open access actually cover? Access and reuse. How far? How does copyright behave in the open world? There was an extremely interesting session yesterday on this issue, etc. So when planning this panel, the idea was, starting from the current situation, what's really happening now in this political shift, and the consequences of this immediate call for action from government, and to broaden the discussion to include some of the questions above, and to hear from three different perspectives. To hear from the perspective of a major commercial publisher, from a intergovernmental organization, or more specifically from the publishing arm of an intergovernmental organization, and from a digital distributor as a go-between, as a middleman, to hear about the possible new business models to be developed in the context of such of the content becoming increasingly free. So I would just like to start, without much ado, to thank the three speakers who have accepted to participate in this discussion, and in order, Wim van der Stelt, who's responsible for business development and corporate strategy at Springer Science and Business Media, to be precise, and who's also a member of the Finch Group. So Wim is going to wear two hats. He's going to have a first part of his presentation to give a brief overview of the current debate and the latest policy issues concerning open access, and the second part to look at how Springer takes up the challenge and what are the changes to the business models this has entailed and will entail for them. Second speaker, José de Buerba from the World Bank, so Senior Publishing Officer and Marketing Manager at the World Bank. Now, the World Bank, he's going to present to us the open agenda of the World Bank. Now, the World Bank made all their data open in 2010, switching from a subscription model to a fully open model, and they have just continued to develop this open agenda by creating this year, by opening this year a open repository of documents. So José is going to talk to us about this experience and also about the challenges that it has entailed for the publishing operations. And finally, Xavier Cazin, who's co-founder and director of a French digital distribution company, Immaterial. Is it immaterial? What's material? What's immaterial? And who's going to give us the distributor perspective on the value for money. In a way, if the content is free, what services are the clients ready to pay for? So without much ado, I will hand over to Wim. Thank you.